All right, let's kind of walk through our three basic problems I want to cover today. Every problem has the same goal, so let's talk about that. You're going to be giving different linear equations. That's the section we're in, right? Linear equations, it's section 2.5. That's if you want to know what kind of section we're in. We're talking about linear equations, and the big goal today is, can we rearrange them or rewrite them? We rewrite the equations into slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form. You got to see one of those yesterday. We did the in-class activity yesterday where you had to graph linear equations. You had to go draw them. Well, you got your first taste and you had to rearrange one problem. I think it was the last one, unless you set up a table and you did it with a table. Well, slope-intercept form, if you don't understand this, like slope-intercept form looks like this. This is the form I want to get to today. Every single problem I want to get to this look. The y is by itself, then we have the mx, and we have the b in the back. The m is a number, a digit, a fraction usually. The b is some decimal, some number, negative or positive, doesn't matter. That's what I want to get to, no matter what the starting point is. So I'm gonna really give you like different looks to your problem to make sure that it makes sense to you. Okay, are you ready to go? Do we understand what we're doing today? Let's take a look at the first one. So, first example today, 5x minus 3y equals 6. This is the first example. I'm going to give you a problem like this. Now, the form, this one's in standard as it currently sits, ax plus by equals c. It's in standard form. We want to get it to look like this. The y is by itself. So what do I need to move first on that problem? The x, right? What happens when I move the x across?
Subtract it from both
Yeah,
sides.
it's technically being subtracted from both sides, or it becomes a negative, however you want to look at it. But when I move that 5x over to the other side with the equal sign, it will become a negative. Because technically, I am subtracting that 5x to the other side. I know that seems really weird. If you don't have to do that in your first step, don't feel bad. Maybe you don't have to move something like that. Maybe you're moving a number. But anytime you move across an equal sign, you're adding or subtracting it, like that. Okay, does everyone understand the first step? Second step to your problem. We need to get the y by itself. If you look at this formula that I need to get to, I need to have a y alone, no number in front of it. So if there's a number in front of it, you have to always divide it off. Does my y have a number? Well, yes it does, so I have to divide it. I'm going to divide everything by the -3. So when I divide this -3 over, it will be divided on every item over there. So you're going to leave it on the bottom for right now. So -5 divided by -3x, and 6 divided by -3. Does that make sense? I'm dividing every item by the -3. If it was a +3, fine. Divide by +3. It doesn't matter. Again, you're dividing. Now, technically what happened is I divided both sides. This side divided out to make one. That was called a reciprocal property and property of opposites, or a reciprocal property and multi-identity. And no, you do not have to tell me any property names today, so you're welcome. No property names necessary. Last step. What happens to two negative signs? Makes positive. So we're going to leave that 5/3. It's a fraction. That's your slope. Your rise 5 around 3. Fine, dandy. What's 6 divided by a -3? -2. And you're going to leave it a -2. Even if that turns out to be a decimal, fine. Write it as a decimal. Okay. The back number, the b number in the back, that can be a decimal. The fraction for slope needs to stay a fraction. Don't divide that. Don't tell me it's like 1.6 repeating. Don't tell me that. All right, questions with what I want to get to. That's the answer. Like, that's what I need to see on every single problem. Okay, we get the idea behind the first one. Second problem. Let's do a little bit more challenging one now. I'm going to leave that on the board. Let's do the second one. Again, still the same goal. We want to get the y by itself, the x over. Okay, so the second one here. This is the second problem. There's a couple things I have to do here. A little bit different than the last one. I have to multiply that 3 through the back parenthesis. I have to distribute the 3 because there's a 3 being multiplied on this parenthesis back here. I do need to do that first. If you think about like normal order of operations, you have to get kind of rid of parentheses and stuff. The next thing I'll have to do after that is move the 8 over so I can get the y by itself. Because again, I still want to get it to look like that. Y equals and then some x's and some numbers. So what happens when I multiply the 3 through this parenthesis? What do I get?
3x.
And? 21. Okay. And yes, you can do the shortcuts. I'm totally fine with you doing that today. I know on previous assignments you had to do all the property names. You don't have to do that today. You can finally do your shortcuts again. Get some more practice with some Algebra 1 facts. Okay. So far so good. What's the next thing I need to move? 8. What happens when I move the 8? Yeah, it becomes a negative. That my equal sign looks terrible. Hold on. So it's moving across the equal sign, so it becomes a negative. So when that 8 moves, it's going to be 3x plus 21, and we're going to subtract the 8 off of it. If you want to just do that in one swoop and write down your answer, cool, do it. You do you. And what we're going to get here is we should get 3x, let's see, what is that, 13? Something like that. 13, 21 minus 8. Positive 13. And that's my answer. Like, that's it. I got the y by itself. I have the, the x right there, and then I have the number in the back. This is actually a fraction. It's 3 over 1. I'm totally fine with that. Okay, we're good with the second type of problem. Remember, y equals mx plus b. That's the form I want to get to. Okay, third example. In fact, I'm going to leave these on the boards currently. Okay, third example. I'm going to put it over here. I don't know if you guys can see this color. This green color's kind of faded pretty quick on me. 4 x plus y, 2x plus, I think it was 5, I think. All right. Last problem here. Okay, what we need to do first is distribute. Like I said earlier, just like on this problem, you need to distribute. Now on this problem, you do need to move a couple different things, and we'll have to divide in the end. So it has more steps. As you go through the problems today, I think there's 5 problems I have on a little worksheet. Each problem adds like another step, basically. There's extra pieces you have to do. Eventually they get down to the problems like at the very end where you're like, wow, you have to do quite a few steps to actually get through it all. Okay, so let's walk through the first step. What should we do on this one first? Parentheses, right? Distribute the 4. Got to multiply this through, so I get 4x and 4y. If there's any numbers on the inside, those will be just multiplied together. I didn't have anything, so cool. Okay, now what? Because remember, my goal is to get the y by itself, so what do I need to move next? Yeah, the 4x. I need to subtract that 4x over. If I subtract the 4x over here, right, if I move it over, it's going to be 2x, and then we're going to subtract 4x's. So that's actually going to end up being a negative 2x plus 5 over here, because it's going to be 2x minus 4x, which is negative 2x's. If that makes any sense. I subtracted it across. Technically, you're subtracting it from both sides. I'm just not showing you that. Okay, last step.
Subtract 4. Divide 4.
Divide everything by 4. So if I divide everything by 4, because there's a 4 in front of y, usually that's always the last step. If there's a number in front of your y, divide it off. I'm going to divide everything by the 4. So everything divided by 4 will be this. X and 5 divided by 4. You can leave it like that. I'm totally fine with that. If you want to simplify any of those, you can. 2 divided by 4 is half. It turns out to be a decimal, but you can leave it a fraction. Some people like to simplify those. They like to write it as negative 1 over 2x, because that's, you divide them both by 2. The 5 over 4, if you want to write it as, 1.25 or 1 1/4, I don't care. However you want to do that, because remember the back number can be a decimal, it can be a fraction, it can be a whole number. The 1 in front of the x has to be a fraction, so leave that a fraction every single time. I know on when I was kind of looking at that worksheet we did yesterday, a lot of people were like dividing that number in front of x. They were trying to write the decimal here. You don't need to do that because it's slope. We usually leave it a fraction anyway. All right, questions with any of the 3 problems I've kind of thrown at you here? Is there anything that maybe confuses you that you're not sure of, that you'd like to see another example of? This is just the first initial impressions I thought we probably should talk about. Anything that you're not sure of, maybe something I didn't really think about, maybe I can mix certain problems together here that I didn't really contemplate that what you'd have to do. Okay, I'm going to turn you loose on a worksheet here. I'm going to hand it out here in a second. I like this turn in before you leave today, so you have about 30 minutes to work on this. So every class is getting about the same time. I just felt bad for the first period. They didn't even have me in class to explain it. They were just doing the worksheet and told to do it. 5 rounds. It should be pretty easy. You got 30 minutes to work on it. Oops, so sorry, Brent. Did not mean to do that. Yeah, so just a reminder, this week, or next week I should say, really try to focus on during the week, wear your mask, wear it correctly. I know Mr. Haig made a pretty big point of that this morning. They're not joking around with it anymore, so they're getting a little nervous about the sheer numbers of kids getting sick. So just as a, as a request, make sure you're trying to wear that mask at all times. You're starting to see the aftermath of it here.